Okay. They've been gone apparently 2 days. 2 days from Egypt. How long had they lived in Egypt, in captivity? How many? 430 years. So 430 years, their people gradually, of course, with Joseph there on the very front end, things were good, but then he died, and as the book of Exodus opens, there arose a new Pharaoh that didn't know Joseph. And so it got bad. But they were in Egypt 430 years. They've been out 2 days. And the griping and the complaining starts. 2 days. That's what struck me at first. And it says to me that those people are not a whole lot different back then than a lot of people are today. And so we're going to talk about what was going on and how the patience of God needed to be there because of what was happening. So, let's walk through. If you start there in Exodus 14, you begin seeing the complaining. Now they have left this place, and the first thing they said was, we don't have anything to drink. I got no water. Well, if you're thirsty, you got to have something to drink. I understand when people are thirsty, and that's not the issue. The issue is not that they couldn't find water. The issue was they were complaining about the water. Now, God had already done some fantastic things, and he was about to do some more fantastic things. But the people are complaining. They did it in chapter 15. They did it in chapter 16. They did it in chapter 17. All about water. We need something to drink. Now, the difference between wanting something to drink and complaining about it is the difference between, God, you brought us out of Egypt, you took care of us. Now you're not taking care of us. See, there's the complaint part. It's not about they don't have water. That generated the situation, sure. But the problem was, it was evidence, the way they said it or the way they acted was evidence that they were not thinking that God was going to take care of them. Didn't he just get them out of Egyptian bondage? Well, certainly he did. And after they crossed the Red Sea and all the enemy is destroyed, and they still are thinking about it, they're still complaining, God had to be patient. How about Exodus 32? Exodus 32 closes the event that started in Exodus 19. When Moses went up on the mountain to get the law from God. Now, how long was he on that mountain? Do you remember? No. 40 days. While he was there, what was happening down below? Idolatry. God said, after he gave Moses the tablets of the law, and the Bible says written with his own finger, he said, now, Moses, those people down there, they're messing up. While God's talking with Moses, giving him the law, the people are already rebelling. They are already in idolatry. They're already messing up. Now, the way that they messed up, the reason they shouldn't have, you recall, when Moses first got them to the mountain, and God said, now tomorrow, everybody be purified, and nobody even touch the mountain. Don't even, if an animal touches the mountain, you have to kill the animal. Now, it may very well be, I sort of believe, that had a human touched the animal, God would have killed, or touched the mountain, God would have killed him or her. You be prepared, because tomorrow something's going to happen. And it did. The next day, maybe it was 3 days later, the people below the mountain heard God speak the Ten Commandments. Whether it was his voice or a voice, they heard God speak the Ten Commandments. And the first one was, you shall have no other gods before me. I am number one. And 40 days later, they were so afraid when they heard God yelling the Ten Commandments that they told Moses, you go up there and talk to him. We don't want to hear him anymore. It may kill us. And 40 days later, they forgot all about that. And now they're worshiping an idol. And God had to be patient. Numbers chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Hard to imagine it was to me, ever since I read this story, that one day Aaron and Miriam, Moses' brother and sister, were complaining, saying, Moses, you're not the only one that God's speaking to. He's also talking to us. Well, he did talk to Aaron. There are places where he did. I don't know if he talked to Miriam or not. So the problem was that they were saying, not that he is talking to us, but rather, you're saying he's talking to you in a way that makes you better than us. It's the jealousy of a brother and sister. Whoever would have thought that they would have done that? Now, time for the microphones, because I have a question that I need help with. I don't know that I have a good answer. Numbers 12. When they complained, verses 1 and 2, notice what happened. In verse 9, the anger of the Lord was there. The cloud that God used to symbolize his presence, it left the tabernacle. It's as though God was in the most holy place and then he just left because of what had just happened. And suddenly Miriam became leprous, as white as snow. And Aaron turned toward Miriam, and she was a leper. Oh, my Lord, do not lay this sin on us, Aaron said to Moses. Can you help me? It doesn't seem like Aaron was punished. Miriam was. And she had to live as a leper for 7 days. I don't know that I have an answer for why Aaron wasn't punished. Even though it may be that his punishment was seeing his sister have leprosy. I don't know. Maybe she started the questioning. Maybe she's the one that led Aaron into it, and so God punished her. We don't read of any specific punishment of Aaron. Anybody have any idea on that? You ever heard that before? Anybody come up with a pretty good reason as to why that might be? Because I don't have one. Nick's got a question over there and thought. Give me a good thought, Nick. We need help. Microphone. Try it again.
All right, there we go. So verse 12, chapter 12, verse 1, right? The verse puts Miriam first.
It does, you're right.
And that is usually the indicator of the more important of the two. So perhaps it is the case that she led the riot or complaint or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and it also involves a wife that Moses had married. You've married this Ethiopian woman. Is that two women going at it? Is that what that is? That doesn't happen, right? Don't pursue that. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. But there's a specific thing said about Miriam. Aaron, I don't think it's off, but there's nothing specifically stated that I can find. Bobby?
This is just a thought. Could Aaron have been punished?
Possible. It went off. I don't know.
Would that possibly, that punishment be Leviticus 10?
Well, that comes up, but it could. I mean, problem with that is it's not Aaron that's punished, it's his son. So Abby has one. Is that what color is that microphone? What's the bottom? Is it the black one? The what? Oh, it's dead? Okay. One of those handhelds is dead, so try it again.
I was just going to say, if Miriam had leprosy and Aaron stayed around her very long, he was probably going to get leprosy.
Well, that's true.
We just don't see that. And then in verse 11, and Aaron said to
Yeah, do not punish us. Well, that's true. Don't lay this sin on us. Yeah, I don't know. I think our microphones are dying here, so y'all gonna have to yell if we talk some more. All right. So, go ahead, Charlie. Yell it out.
Interesting in verse 11 too, Aaron says to Moses, it's almost like he's blaming Moses for it.
Yeah, he's saying for Moses, don't lay this on us. Maybe that's a recognition that Moses has some power with God. If, in other words, maybe Moses can stop this. And if not, then you're just going along with it and laying it on us. But yeah, that is interesting how it's written. Very true. All right? And so again, God has to be patient. Numbers 13, you know all about coming to the promised land the first time. And the people were dissuaded from going in. The people are too big, the walls are too fortified, we can't do it. And so they all said that the spies talked them out of it, and they didn't go. And therefore they decided, we're not going in. Fine, I'm going to send you back to the wilderness for 40 years. Oh, wait a minute, now we're ready to go in. And so they started a small battle. They just decided they'd take it on their own. Of course, they lost. And God had to be patient. Number 16. Korah comes along. And Korah raises up a group of about 250 guys to say, you're taking too much on yourself, Moses. God is speaking to us too. There's a theme here, right? Some people either don't like authority or they want authority for themselves. And God had to deal with them. And of course, how did Korah die? There you go, big earthquake. In fact, that's the first time an earthquake had ever happened. That's what Moses said. If something brand new that's never happened before will happen, then you'll know that you're wrong and I'm right. First earthquake. And God had to be patient. And then in Numbers 16, verse 41, at the end of that, they had just seen Korah and the men. Now, the 250 men were offering sacrifices as though they were priests. And God burned them up. Interesting. Got an earthquake, you have fire that killed people, and in verse 41, the people complain, you've killed some of our brethren. Told Moses, you killed some of our brethren. Have you ever just thought, what is wrong with these people? What is wrong with these Israelite people? How can you watch an earthquake that you've never seen before? How can you watch a fire devastate 250 people and it was rained down from heaven, and now you're going to complain that it was done? Are you not afraid the ground might not open under you? Are you not afraid that God would send fire on you? It's hard to imagine, except that there's no guarantee we'd have been any better if we were there. But certainly they had some strange things, and God had to be patient. In Numbers 20, again, lack of water. And this is when Moses sinned to such a degree that he was not allowed to go into the promised land. God was patient. Numbers 21, they had been eating manna for a long time because they complained, and now they're tired of the manna. And God had to be patient. Numbers 25, the people were committing adultery, harlotry with the people of Moab, the women of Moab. They had just had Balaam blessing them instead of cursing them, the Balak-Balaam story. And now they're off committing fornication. And God had to be patient. And in Leviticus 10, Nadab and Abihu apparently had forgotten that just a few days ago, a few months ago, God burned up a bunch of priests, or people that were acting like priests when they were not real priests. And now here they are as real priests, 2 of the 4 sons of Aaron, and they're doing exactly wrong from what God told them to do. It's called strange fire. It has to mean take the fire from here. If you take it from any other place, it's strange fire. And they took it from some other place. And God had to be patient. Now that's a condensed story as it relates to all of time. But Peter, I believe it is 2 Peter, is it, let's see, here is it, where God is reserved, when they said that, the people said that the world has continued like it has been since the beginning of time, and they forget about the flood, and God says, but I have reserved. God's reserved. God's holding himself back. He has been patient since the Garden of Eden. So we see the patience of God on display in this section, not any more than any other place, but certainly over and over with a bunch of people that he was trying to help, and they're just so rebellious and griping and complaining, and it's just rough. The patience of God. Now, who are the main players? Who is Jethro? Father of Moses' father-in-law, right? Moses' father-in-law, that's exactly right. Who are Eleazar and Ithamar? The other 2 sons that didn't die, right? So he had 4 sons, Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar, Ithamar. King Balak called for Balaam to come and curse the people of God because they were camped all around in Moab, and he was really concerned about that. How did Balaam die? You recall? Yes, killed in battle. Where was he? He was amongst the people that Israel was fighting. Apparently what happened, we're going to see it here in a little while, or next week, Balaam said everything right and did everything wrong. If you have a chance this week, go back and read the story of Balaam. If you look on the back of the paper, it's the second one of the lessons we're going to look at next week. And then there's, of course, Joshua and Caleb. These are the main players in this section, major people. The major events include, of course, the Exodus, the giving of the law, the golden calf. The tabernacle is built in Exodus 36. The Nadab and Abihu incident, the refusal to enter the promised land, Moses' sin at Kadesh. We don't have the exact reference of what his problem was. People said that when God the first time had him to bring water from a rock, he told him to strike the rock, and he did with his staff, and the water came out. The second time, God said, speak to the rock, and he struck it. But God also says, you're not going to go into the promised land because you didn't give me credit. When he said to the people, Moses said, shall we draw water from this rock for you? I think God was saying to Moses, you didn't do that. I did that. But you took the credit for yourself. Here's an interesting point just to throw in about that. Do you have any idea how many people we're talking about that came out of Egypt and are now wandering in the wilderness? Got any idea? Numbers you've heard?
Most historians will say something in the neighborhood of 3 million.
Yeah, 2.5 to 3 million. Now, how much water does it take every day to give 2.5 to 3 million people something to drink? Plus what? And animals too. They got to have something to drink. That's right. So here's my view. I don't think it was a little bitty rock. And if it was a little bitty rock, but a great big river. It's not even logical. I was up in the Northeast when I was in high school, and then I went back to do mission trip from college, and it was during the wintertime, that time. And in the morning, we were staying with the uncle of one of my friends, and in the morning, we got up and walked across the street, and there was water just flowing off the mountain from snow that had melted. And that's where we got our water to drink and brush our teeth. Number one, that was cold, cold. But you know what? There are not 3 million people going to stand there. Okay, I'm finished. Next. You're not going to get 3 million people. We're looking at a river. Now, is this a river that flowed in the middle of the wilderness? I think so. Where'd it go? I don't know. But I guarantee you, they had a river of water or a big old pond of water. Maybe the water came out of the rock and God caused it to pool in a big lake. He doesn't tell us how. But I know that it was something really special. And the view that we have, you ever seen when you were a kid in Bible class, I remember, how many of you remember going to class as a kid and having a felt board, and they put up the felt board pictures? You remember all those? Well, I remember the one for this. There was a rock about as tall as this, and there was Moses standing there, and there were 2 people getting water, and it was coming out like a fountain. Now, they missed that. There's no way that could happen. Fascinating story. Okay. You have Moses' sin, you have Balak and Balaam, and then you have the death of Moses in Deuteronomy 34. God said, it's time to go. Time to go. You think it would be easier to face death if God appeared to you and said, get ready, because this time tomorrow you're dead. You're coming to me. I wonder. You know, one of the things we think about in death is we don't know when it's coming. Aaron knew. God said, Aaron, come on. Time for you to die. He was 134. God said to Moses, come on. Time for you to die. Interesting. Onisha, I think we have microphones now.
Who wrote Deuteronomy 34?
Yeah. I think, beyond doubt, I think Moses wrote it all. I think he wrote his death. I think God told him about it, and he wrote it. But it also could be that verse, or what we understand, is chapter 34 was appended. Maybe Joshua wrote that. I don't know. But yeah, Jesus attributed the Pentateuch to Moses, so he's at least the major primary author of that book. Now let's look at a timeline. Turn on the back. What's the timeline of leaving Egypt and getting to the Promised Land? So if you look at it, I've divided it into 3 sections for you, because these are the 3 sections that I found that are marked in the text that give you a time frame, time stamp. So we have from Exodus 12 to Exodus 19 is a total of 3 months. That's according to Exodus 19:1. From the time they left Egypt until they arrived at Mount Sinai, 3 months. Okay? If you go back and read it, you'll also notice that God, when he brought them out, if we imagine that Egypt is down here, Promised Land is up here, and the wilderness is over here. God said, I'm not going to take this route. That would have been the short route. But he said, the fierce people, the Philistines, I don't want Israel to get discouraged. That's what he said. I don't want them to be discouraged. I'm going to take them through the land of the Philistines. So I'm going to take them through the wilderness. I don't know, which is worse, the wilderness or the Philistines? Well, it's 3 months. How much quicker it would have been the other way, I don't know. 3 months. Then from Exodus 19, when God told them to leave Mount Sinai, and they head to Numbers 14, where they refused to go to the Promised Land, is 12 months and 22 days. So they've been out of Egypt 15, almost 16 months. That's how long they've been from Egypt to get to the Promised Land the first time, about 16 months. And then God said, okay, you blew it. Head back. And so from Numbers 14 through Deuteronomy 34 is that 40-year period in the wilderness. So we're talking about 42 years from the time they left Egypt until they finally went into the Promised Land in Joshua chapter 1. That's your timeline. Okay? And the geography, where did all this happen? Happening right there. Isn't that area in Egypt, is that called, at that time, wasn't that called the Crescent Valley? Is that right? Somebody know? Huh? Fertile Crescent. There you go. The Fertile Crescent. Oh, by the way, thank you for the answer for the birthday boy. Kylie said, would you please say that Grandpa's birthday is today? I don't remember what she calls you. What do they call you? There you go. Pop, would you please tell everybody, okay? You make sure that Kylie knows that I said it, okay? Chuck's birthday is today. Now, we're not singing. Not to him. But unless you want us to, we'll sing to you. You know. You'll pass. Did you take a microphone somewhere? Oh, they gave it back. He took a microphone and they gave it back. And so the Fertile Crescent, and that has to do with the River Nile that would overflow, and that's how the area was sustained, and they had all the abundance of what they grew and did. And then as you move from the Fertile Crescent over into the wilderness where there was nothing, which is where God had to, how did he feed them? How did God feed the children of Israel while they're in the wilderness? Manna, quail, right? What did God say about their clothes? They never wore out. They had the same shoes and the same clothes. Am I to think they did that for 40 years? So, about every, 20 years, clothes come back in style around here? Have y'all seen my grandson's pants? You've seen them? Who's seen them? Okay, Nick's seen them. You remember the pants at the bottom that were about this wide? You remember those? That's what my grandson's wearing now. So that's what, 30, 40 years, 50 years every time? I don't know. It comes back around? I don't know. But God took care of them. Their sandals didn't wear out. The clothes didn't wear out. I'm going to close with reminding us. When you read this section, you're reading about the patience of God. He put up with a lot of stuff. But while God is patient, remember this, He is not eternally patient. Eventually, He has enough. Eventually, He said, that's it. Eventually, He does something. And we see that at different times, don't we? When He takes nations away, brings nations up, takes them away, or individually punishing somebody, or reserving judgment for the end of time. But God is patient. And our job is, let us not challenge, and let us not try to wear out the patience of God. All right. Next week, on the back side, be looking ahead and see if there's some of those in there that you want to talk about. Now, hang on. Ron Murray. I bet Bobby would, and Brett, and Caleb, Ryan. Y'all come on up here and sign to do these devotional talks. Come on. I know y'all can do it. Joe? Happy birthday to you. Birthday.